Good morning, friends, and audience of this very popular ad hoc ranting on the internet. My program on the internet of ad hoc ranting. So now this ad hoc ranting today is specific. It's for the Swedes. So I'm gonna give you a choice. You decide, you Swedes. We know Russia collapsed in Ukraine, but it's not over. For Pustalenin, it's not over. Nor will it be over. So long they're there, it's not going to be over. So here's your choice. You can either give it all you've got and win in Ukraine, or repeat after me, or if Ukraine falls, you have to fight in Sweden and lose in Sweden. Does that make sense? This is like 1 + 1 = 2. You have no choice about it, folks. So you can win in Ukraine or you can lose in Sweden. Win in Ukraine or lose in Sweden, because the war in Ukraine gives you a lot of land to fight. When it comes to Sweden, and now if it comes to Sweden, that's big if, of course, like colossal if, then you're in a corner. What are you going to do? Like swim to Canada or something? Or take those old canoes and the boats of the Vikings, some of which were manufactured in Arab Spain, like put them in the sea and send them, go to Canada or something? You can't do that, folks. Now you also cannot play that neutrality card. Why can't you play that neutrality card? These days are over, folks. Right now, if those Pustalinins come to your border, right, then they will invade you regardless. He made that point, he threatened you and Finland not to join NATO. Now think about it. Think about it for a second. If you didn't join NATO, he will not invade you. But if you joined NATO, he will invade you. Just think about it. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure that out, that position. So the idea of neutrality has already been shattered and obliterated by Pustalinin threatening you and Finland. All right. So that's a point. So neutrality is not possible. Even if you did not intervene and donate weapons to Ukraine, you will still be invaded. But now you're already part of it. Why? Because you donated weapons to Ukraine. So you're already part of that fight. And doesn't take a genius to realize that you're already at war, and then back to those two original choices, of which you have no choice, one of two. You either win in Ukraine to your east, or lose in Sweden and then go like cruise with your ships and canoes all the way to Canada. Or if you remain, my guesstimate is that some of you will be relocated to Siberia, and some of you will be killed. Many of you will be killed. Blood purge, like Stalin and Lenin and Stalin. The Pustalinin will commit what they've done in Russia in the last century on you again. It's that simple, folks. I don't understand what it is about you that it's like you're looking on while Pustalinin is devouring, trying to devour a European nation. Okay, so just so you know, Pustalinin has certain religion. It is extremely similar. I was reading today about racism, which means the worship of one man, right? This is a very complex process. You only know the touches of it, but it's got like roots and it exists like heavily. It existed mainly in about Persia, which really originally emanated from Arabia, not Islam. No, no, no. It is something that is those. There are certain Arab tribes, Jewish tribes, who migrated to Persia and here and there, and that's them. And they have something called hulul, hulul, halla or dwelt. Like you come to a place where there's pastures, and good climate and so on, and you decide to inhabit that place, inhabit that place, and it's called mahal hulul. It's a verb. It takes a lot of shapes and so on. Hence, it's Taj Mahal. Mahal is the word. Mahal is the place of dwelling, right, or of inhabiting. So because it's desirable and so on. Now, hulul also means in that particular religion, which they teach their conscripts or their serfs or dogs in hiding, and that's different from Masonry. Masonry have I from what I learned has something similar in concept. They teach them that Allah or God, which is totally opposite to Islam and Christianity and other religions as well, becomes a man, right? And it's all sometimes too obvious in their literature, in their movies, and you can sort it out. But these guys that's how they are. And Pustalenin and Lenin and Stalin and Hitler and his Egyptian brother, remember his Egyptian? He had an Egyptian second in hand, like I think his name was Rudolf Hess. He is an Egyptian. You may say, oh, he's German. Yeah, sure, yeah, he was from German heritage, but he was born and grew up in Egypt. He talks Egyptian accent too, right? Similar to General Sisi of Egypt. And Hosni Mubarak, but no, General Sisi, So General Sisi is as such. So these guys appoint themselves as gods. No, 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 no. It's not metaphor. It's not symbolic. It's not superficial. It's not leadership. It is real. The real God, Lord or God themselves onto people. Like if you don't worship them and bow down and all that bullshit, they will kill you. Basic and simple. And if you do submit to that particular worship, then they use you, throw a bone and so on, and eventually they get rid of you. First they dement you from your humanity. They make you look like animal. Like nihilism and pleasurism and all that kind of stuff, and you become their serf, and they utilize you like a dog, and eventually they get rid of you. That's it. That's what Putin is. That's what Sisi is. That's what Bashar of Syria is. That Bashar and his father Hafiz. I remember. I am from Syria. I grew up there when I was young. They were appointing those two, the father and the son, now the son, as gods. And it is, we've got videos, from during the time of the Intifada and uprising, that when they called some Sunni people, they asked them to declare Bashar as their god. And once he did, they killed him. And it's not gloating or loath or anything else. No, no, no. This is for real, folks. They worship that man as their god. And he tells them, he tells them everything. And they have this sun and moon and whatever it is. All this comes a migration from Arabia just about the time of Islam, because they hated the Prophet, and his equality and like human equality and so on among human, no matter what you're Swedes or Arabs or Indonesians or blacks. In Islam, everybody is really the same, right? Like that's why when you prostrate down, your body becomes healthy, of course, but then at the same time, it reminds you that you're just a human like everybody else. Oh, sure, like we're not equal in mind and soul and so on. We're different, but it's not per race, let's put it this way. But those people hated that because Prophet Muhammad took it away from them. He now says the God is really up there, and then everybody is equal, but there's freedom, there's capitalism, there is right and wrong, and there's this human space and liberty and so on. First one to bring that about, right? Yeah. So anyways, that's what it is. And then Ayatollahs as well, they worship them. No, you don't understand. they really are their gods. You know, they're not their gods in reality, but they appoint themselves as gods. You know, for them, the mission in life for them, per their Talmud, are to God, and I'm using God here, and the word God and the word Lord as a verb, to God and Lord people, period. That's it. That's why all the killing happened in Syria, because all these Sunnis would not worship Bashar, and, you know, bow down to him and allow him everything and live like dogs under his feet. You know, that's what it is, or his father for that matter. You know, he destroyed an entire city in 1980, and the horror of it is just mind-boggling. So that's the Shiites religion. The Shiites religion is divided into, and so is Alawism, and so on and so forth. And these are now the cohorts and supporters of Putin, of course. The Shiism is two. There is the upper echelon, which is really that Jewish tribe from Arabia, right? They migrated into Qom in particular, where Khomeini is. Khomeini was born in that city called Qom. That's where that cabal migrated from Arabia and inhabited that particular city. Well, they immigrated west and east and so on, and eventually they blended with the locals. But those folks here in Qom, didn't forget about that, and then eventually there was more migration and so on. This goes beyond what I'm saying, folks, but that's enough for today. So if all this ranting within the rant of today is this: if Putin makes it to Sweden, he's gonna blood purge you first for those stubborn elements, the ones who really are cat personality, you know, like to be free and liberty, and I doesn't like that, yeah. No different from Bashar and Ayatollahs and Khomeinis and whatnot. So that's one thing he's going to do. And the rest, those who submit, are either going to be dispersed or made to worship and so on and so forth. As you can see, in Russia, people are trying to leave. Some 30 million of them, and now probably more. Now you may say, oh, look, there are oligarchs. The story of the oligarchs is very simple, folks. The oligarchs are brothers of Putin. And all this bullshit that you hear about now, here and there, in terms of them losing their $600 million yachts and so on. No, folks, no. All that is bullshit. They want to tell you that Abramowitz, whatever his name is, that Israeli, that, oh, he's against Pustalenin, and then he was poisoned, and they took his yachts. No. He is part and parcel of that edifice called Lizard Eye Cabal of Moscow, period. All that is to put them in the back end. And notice, the entire wealth of Russia is concentrated in few hands, while everybody else is languishing, and, you know, like, that's the concept of communism, folks. It was born in those people's mind, you know, like Karl Marx is one of them. Karl Marx is an occurrence, not a new phenomenon in history or occurrence in history. He is a continuation of something that came from that land back there. And that will not change, folks. Oh yeah, you got like your phone now, technology, laptop. You got a card. You can go to the bank and withdraw money. You know, debit card. But all that, folks, is dust. Nothing really. And the wealth of Russia and its oil and its vastness and not vastness. You know, they don't own much of it really. They call it federation. Federation, my ass. Is all really collected and concentrated in the hands of the Abramowitz, you know, and the other guys. That's it. Similar to the United States. United States right now is not much different from Russia in terms of there is that general people, you know, like all the people, and then there is that concentrated wealth in the hands of the investors, right? No different, really. So that's it. Considering this, that's it. Here is what the Shiites are. There is that upper echelon of the Shiites, which is really part of that tribe, and the rest, the masses under them, they send them to commit terror acts and so on, and terrorist acts like the September 11 and so on, and in Europe and France and here and there and Spain and wherever, right? You know, Germany and United States, mainly in the United States. And these are the dogs, you know, those who were raised to listen to a command and fight and so on. Sunnis have nothing to do with this, folks. Now, many Sunnis do appear as a what you call as no. Many Sunnis are really not Sunnis. They're Alawites or Shiites, part of that world, which is really that really world of horror. They appear as Sunnis, similar to that guy Hassoun of Syria. He used to be the Mufti of Syria, and he threatened in 2011. He threatened the United States with terror acts, and he even pointed out that they're there already. You know, and I'm wondering why didn't they go arrest him, because he has confessed to it, right? And he is not a Muslim. He dresses as a Muslim, and no, he's not. You know, you can count on that. He's part of that filth of that world. So here you go, Swedes. You can either win in Ukraine or lose in Sweden, and all that you've lived for what a few thousand years, it will be demolished, will be pulverized, right? And you will never be back to where you were again. Now you Swedes owe your brothers, your kin folks, like in Denmark and in Norway and in Finland, and all Europe for that matter. But if you want to take care of your vicinity, because they don't have military industry, right? The last I looked, they buy airplanes from the United States and so on. And you need to ramp up, man. Because you may think Putin was defeated, and I assure you he collapsed and defeated. And in my prediction, that's it. You know, Russia will not stand up again, not in the direction of Europe. They will probably take it out of murdering civilians elsewhere. You know, that's their typical nature, and that's it. They don't exceed that. I mean, they couldn't go 1 inch beyond that, as a matter of fact. And then now, of course, you have. But they will try again on Europe because that was in the works and in the plans for years and years. Now, going back to all those, I told you about those immigrants from Arabia, you know, 1400 years ago, because they were like displaced by Islam, not displaced, you know, dislodged from their practices of guarding and lording other people and living off usury and misery and so on. So they immigrated to Persia and Syria, and some of them went as far as east as Mongolia, and that's when one of them is Genghis Khan and his son Hulagu, right? They're Jews, you know, we know that they have origin from there, and they come back with vengeance, right? Because what their throne of horror and hell, such as that of Lenin and Stalin, and they being god of people, was demolished by the Prophet. Not just that, the Sassanid, who are Sasan, we call them in Arabic Sasan, right? The dynasty which was displaced by Muslims in Persia is really the Sasan, if you want to announce them in Persian, it'll be Sasan, right? Guess what? The Sassoons of Baghdad, right? You know who they are, right? So they also blame Islam for dislodging them from the chair of Persia. But what was Persia before Islam came? Just go look at it and tell me what it is, right? You know? It was haram. People basically were living like animals there, usury and whatever it is, you know, like they were just making them live like haram. So they went east, and then they came back in the form of Mongols, and then in the modern age, of course, they came back, and that failed, obviously, after murdering so many millions, after destroying an enormous number of books, an enormous sum of knowledge, and so on and so forth, you know, which was built by Muslims and bequeathed eventually to the world. Now the world uses what they invented. But anyways, what I'm trying to say here is this. Those people are coming there for one thing and one thing alone, to claim what they think is theirs, and that was taken away from them, and that's being gods of people. Back to the word hulul. Hulul is that God or Allah, you know, becomes in the human, you know, like they become the human, walking human, and the gods, and they are not the merciful type, believe me. Swedes, you're already in the fight. You can't like play the game. Oh, sorry, Pustalenin, we didn't mean it, you know, and shit like that. If he comes to your borders, he won't even listen to you, folks. In fact, because you donated weapons to Ukraine now, he's going to use that as a ploy to murder many of you. Time to move on. And I'm talking to Swede now. I'm talking to, by the same time, to English, Scots, French, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Dutch, Germanics, you name it, folks. I'm talking to all of you. That thing is coming, and that thing is really, really nasty and bad. Well, thanks for listening to my ranting today, watching me, of course, like I make videos as well. So have a nice day, my friend, and I'll post this shortly.